today's lecture will be discussing different types of correlation, and all these correlations are associated with the regression results. So when we estimate regression and we get regression results, there are three additional results associated with the regression results. They are known as zero order correlation, par correlation, and partial correlation. These are very important concepts. Apparently it looks as if they are very basics, but very important concepts are associated with the particularly part correlation and the partial correlation. Okay. So the data file which we are using, in the lecture we'll be using another file, but this file I have shared with you, cellular, the file containing data related to cellular survey I have shared with you, which makes your assignment number 2, and you are supposed to calculate the part and the partial correlation using the data provided in this file. So initially we will learn how to transfer data from SPSS to Excel, and then based on Excel data how to use the data analysis tool back direct function in order to calculate the regression, correlation, part correlation, partial correlation. If I say regression is actually a big thing. Regression actually gives you so many things. So many statistics are part and the package of the regression results. So it would be true. And the data which I have shared with you for the purpose of assignment, it includes the average monthly minutes of different services, internet services or any other services which we are using the cellular items or the cellular products. Average monthly bill which you as a customer receive on the average, and then the percentage of that cellular service which you are using employed for the purpose of business activities, and certain proportion of these internet units or some other cellular services, certain proportion of these services you are using for the personal purpose. So we are dividing the cellular services utilization into parts. One which is certain proportion which is used for the business activities, and the remaining one for the personal purposes. And the other variables have already been explained in the assignment, in the assignment content. You will be reading and you will be doing the assignment as you observe me doing many things associated with the regression analysis. This code is my personal
GPS signal lost.
So these codes have nothing to do with your assignments or class lecture. These are my personal coding scheme which I generally apply for the maintenance of my personal data. We will directly move on to the file which I will be opening very soon. The variables included in this file are this data is related to the survey of the advanced statistical modeling in business. The students take their interest in this course, and what is the effect of taking interest? If they are unable to solve the problem, if they take more time in understanding different topics and issues and the concepts, whether the students experience any anxiety while doing this course, while doing assignments, while doing different practice questions, and does this thing apply to both the gender, male and female equally, or there is some difference? And what happens if they overcome all these issues, anxiety, and they engage themselves in doing statistical problems and understanding the statistical formula, the results, the interpretation, if they do understand by spending more time? So what are their achievements? Do all these things affect their achievements or not? For example, the interest in learning ASM, does it affect the achievement score? When students engage themselves learning more and more from ASMB and using different techniques, for example, using software, using the statistical formula, revising their previous lectures from the undergrad level, does this affect their achievement in the ASMB at this level, at the PhD level, or not? Similarly, whether this achievement is the same across both the gender, male, female, or not. So this is our problem which we will be discussing, and the data associated with this survey we will be using in today's lecture. And the results which we will be obtaining, the appropriate statistical symbol for these results are like capital R square, R square, bar, which is also known as the adjusted R square, and root mean square error, what is that concept, and ANOVA, what is the concept of ANOVA, and the coefficients which we receive after having estimated the regression results. So without wasting our time, we directly go to the data file. This is the data file. The data is available in SPSS. SPSS generally has two windows. In fact, it has three windows. When we open SPSS open three windows simultaneously. One is known as the variable window or variable view. The view which appears here is not the variable view. It is known as the data view. Data view means when the data file looks like Excel sheet, including the numbers like this. This is known as the data view. And the variable view, you can scroll between the two windows by pressing Ctrl T. So when you press Ctrl T, this shows you all the variables listed in this data file. And the data view is by pressing again Ctrl T key, Ctrl plus T keys. If you press them together, you can scroll between the two views. One data view and the other is variable view. In the variable view is very important to understand. So first of all, let me explain it to you. There are three very important things in the variable view. Number one, the short names of the variable. When you are constructing your SPSS file, the variable view is the one which needs to be set before anything else. For example, in the variable view, the short name, the shortest possible name of the variable. Now, since the short the alphabets or abbreviations are used for the construction of the name, for writing the names of the variable, that is why in order to elaborate this variable name, there is another important thing, label. So in label, you need to write a statement which clearly explains the variable name. For example, int ASMB is meaningless if you don't know, if you have not used before, or if you are receiving this data file ready-made and you need to understand as to what is int and ASMB. So here in the label, the researcher or the analyst explains a bit. For example, int ASMB here stands for interest in advanced statistical modeling for business. The second variable ENG, which shows actually the engagement, students' engagement, how much time student spends or devotes for the learning of ASMB course. And ANX is actually the anxiety which possibly student may experience or face while studying the ASMB, because sometimes it is very difficult to understand, particularly the students who have not done their statistical course at the undergrad level. Sometimes becomes hard to understand, so they need to spend more time, and when they spend more time, still they are unable to understand completely, so they may experience anxiety. Achievement is actually the achievement in terms of grade, in terms of index of the performance. The performance indicators are multiple in nature, so when we join them together in the form of an index, that can be that is known as the achievement score. The achievement in the ASMB and gender is here classified into two. Not here, it creates a confusion, it creates a misunderstanding whether it is gender of the enumerators, the people, the survey teams who are gathering data, or it is related to the respondents. So generally it is response. So we need to here specify whether this gender is for the data collector or the data gathering team or the respondents. So generally we have with students gender. When we write students gender, it clearly narrates that we are talking about the students who are taking the course ASMP, and here the researcher talks about these two. The two things: one, name of the variable; second, label of the variable. These two things are utmost important. The third important thing is which relates to some of the variables, that is values. So label and values. If these two things are not given, perhaps it is hard to understand the variable names. तो values में हम क्या करते हैं? We actually code the variable. For example, here in this case, 0 is coded for male and 1 is coded for female. So values are important to understand the specification of different traits or the characteristics of a variable. So given this information, coming back to the third view or third part of the window, which does not work until unless you apply some statistics. Since we have not applied any statistics so far, therefore the other window remains closed. But since I opened, when I press the file, when I double click the data file, it must be there. So this third view opens. So three views simultaneously appear when you open the file in SPSS. One variable view, the other is data view, and the third one is output. So output here keeps or maintains a log. This log actually is a record. Which function you applied first, which function you applied second, third, and fourth. So it maintains the log of all the statistical functions which you perform in SPSS. तो हम वापस डेटा फाइल में जाएंगे और इसमें the first function which you can perform from statistical function while remaining either in the data view or in the variable view. तो आप यहाँ पे analyze हम करते हैं. Analyze, and the first thing is regression. We are starting with regression because regression output package includes all the statistics like zero order correlation, part correlation, and partial correlation, linear. And here, if you right click anywhere in this variable list, this is the list of the variables, all the variables included in this file. So if you right click and the variable view appears, names of the variables appear here. So we are using achievement in this course as a dependent variable. When I say dependent variable, it means how the achievement score changes across all these traits, all these variables, or all these dynamics. So when this is the case, then we want to see what is the effect of students taking interest in this course, what is the effect of students highly engaged, moderately engaged, or engaged in general in this ASMP course. And what if the student suffers from any sort of anxiety? ये तीन वेरिएबल हम इसको चूज कर रहे हैं. पहले हम ये चारों चूज करते हैं ताकि मैं आपको इंटरप्रिटेशन सिखा दूँ. So I select all these four variables. Double clicking it, we can bring it to the list of the independent variable. Then we move on to statistics. We start with the basics. The estimates generally give us the betas values or the coefficients values. The coefficient which are estimated by the SPSS, जो हमने last time discuss भी किया था. In regression, actually, when we have the information about the variable, then what is the thing which we need to estimate? In regression, when we say the data is available, we are actually estimating, we are targeting the estimation of the coefficients. And what is the purpose of estimating coefficient using regression? The purpose is to understand the extent of relationship as to how much variation in the independent variable brings about changes in the value of the dependent variable. So if one variable changes, what is its effect on the other variable, that is dependent variable. So generally in simple regression analysis, we choose model fit, descriptive stats if required, because we have already done descriptive stats, we will not be selecting this option. Part and partial correlation, essential, and then the confidence interval. So in simple regression analysis, which you have already done in the previous course, continue करते हैं and then we press OK. So very quickly how to interpret these results. The first table actually gives you information as to the variable selected for regression model. The second table is model summary. When we say model summary, it indicates the overall fitness of overall importance of the regression. For example, I will come back to this R later on, but here the major thing is to understand R square. What is R square? This is known as coefficient of determination. Generally its value ranges between 0 and 1. Now here its value is 0.39. Rounding it off, we can make it 40%. So this 40% in terms of percentage, 40% indicates that the four variables which we have selected to cause achievement score in ASMP, if they change, what is their contribution in the change of the dependent variable? In other words, when this is 0.4, rounding it off, ये 0.4 क्या शो करेगा? ये शो करेगा कि 40% of the variation in the achievement score is due to the four variables which you have selected for this model. Number one, gender of the students. Number two, students' time devotion to this particular course. And number three, the anxiety if it occurs, and the interest, the level of interest students are taking in this course. So these four variables, gender, student devotion or commitment, students' level of any anxiety if it is there, and students taking interest. These four variables are contributing to the change of the ultimate final variable achievement in ASNB up to 40%. So it means there is another source of variation in the achievement score as well, because these four variables explain only 40% of the variation in the achievement score. So remaining 60% is due to some other variables. So generally speaking, they are random in nature because we have incorporated only four variables. So the variation in achievement score is only up to 40% due to these variables. ANOVA क्या बताता है? ANOVA overall fitness of the model को बताता है, number one. Number two, it also tells you whether the variables which you have considered to affect the dependent variable are relevant to the model or we have selected them erroneously. So the F statistic, the value of F actually determines as to the relevance of the independent variables included in the model. For example, here, now here how to check it, the guidelines are, we check its significance. If F is significant, it means all the independent variables, remember, all the independent variables, 4, 5, whatever number you have considered for this model. We have considered four variables. So if F value turns out to be significant, यहाँ पे ये significant है, कैसे पता लग रहा है? Because the probability here is less than 5%. So if the probability SIG or significance, so SIG significance will actually tell us the actual probability of type 1 error. I will come to it a little later on, what is type 1 error, type 2 error, but here, just to understand the importance of F. So if F is significant, that indicates that the variables which you have considered in this model, independent variables considered in this model, they are relevant. They are very much important to determine the variation in the achievement score. अगर ये significant ना होता तो फिर the results would have been otherwise. तो ये इसमें इस table में the most important thing is this F, the value of F with. Generally speaking, when in the exam, if the significant score or the probability is not given, then you have to compare it with 4. We are setting 4 as a rule of thumb to be compared with the calculated value of F4. So if F turns out to be greater than 4 or equal to 4, तो ये exact नहीं है, rule of thumb और shortcut method मैं बता रहा हूँ. तो as a shortcut, if the value of F in our course is greater than 4 or equal to 4, we will say it is significant. Significant means the independent variables play a significant role in the determination of the independent variable achievement score. उसके बाद हम आ जाते हैं नीचे जो बाकी रिजल्ट्स हैं, फॉर एग्जांपल the other table, fourth table, gives us the values of the coefficients and associated statistics. Coefficients को हम कैसे पढ़ते हैं? ये B जो है it stands for actually abbreviation of beta. Beta coefficients unstandardized. Later on we will also discuss the difference between standardized coefficients and the unstandardized coefficients. So generally when you report results in your research paper or in thesis, it is the list of unstandardized coefficients. Standardized coefficients कुछ और बताते हैं, वो मैं भी आपको बताऊंगा. तो unstandardized coefficients क्या बता रहे हैं? We skip the constant for the time being and we move on to the first variable, interest in ASMP. It is positive, number one, it is positive, and when we look at the T stats, if T turns out to be greater than 2, T के लिए हम जो benchmark रख रहे हैं वो 2 रख रहे हैं, अगर probability given now, but if probability is given, then the probability has to be less than 5% in order for this variable to be significant or having significant impact on the dependent variable. So here we will come back to the value of the beta coefficient, but here since T is more than 2 in absolute form, it is 3.18, and this is rule of thumb greater than 2, but when we look at the probability is less than 5%. It is 0.02, which is much less than 5%. ये तकरीबन कोई 0.2% बनता है. So this less than 5% indicates that interest, if you are taking more interest in this course, your achievement score is likely to improve because it has positive sign. It has positive sign and P value is more than 2 and the probability is less than 5%. So all these indicators indicate positive and significant impact on the achievement of score in the ASMB. So if you the greater the interest in this course, the greater will be the achievement score. दूसरे पे चलते हैं, student devoting more time. So if your commitment to this course, if your engagement to this course is higher, then the achievement score will be higher. Why? Because this is positive sign. And whether statistically it is significant or not, when we look at the value of T, it is greater than 2 in absolute form. And furthermore, the probability is again less than 5%. So again, we say the time devotion has significant impact on the achievement score. So if you spend more time in learning this course, you are likely to get better score in terms of achievement in this course. Fourth variable is anxiety. If students suffer from anxiety due to this course, due to difficulty of the course, nature of the course, then there will be negative impact on their achievement score because of this negative sign. And again, but this is not significant. It means it is not necessary. It varies from student to student. We cannot generalize it because it is not significant. That is why we are saying so. Since it is negative, so as far as relationship is concerned, we will say that if students' anxiety level increases, they are likely to lose their score. They are likely to lose instead of achievement. तो ये नेगेटिव साइन का ये मतलब, बट इट इज नॉट सिग्निफिकेंट. इसका मतलब ये है कि ये जनरलाइज नहीं कर सकते. Some of the students may face such type of achievement score, the poor achievement score. लेकिन कुछ ऐसे भी हो सकते हैं जो anxiety भी experience करते हैं, but they continue working, they continue spending time, they don't lose heart, and they continue working on it despite sometimes facing anxiety and sometimes calm, sometimes very peaceful, and they are able to get a better score. ये possibility है, लेकिन generalize हम नहीं कर सकते कि across all the students perhaps this happens. If students get anxiety, therefore they will be losing score. No. For some of the students this may happen, for some other students this may not happen. अच्छा, this variable is very important. The student's gender. We cannot interpret this variable like the other variable. अब पहले मैं other variables का बता दूँ. अभी मैंने बताया कि उनकी importance in result से every variable's importance goes across the value of t and the probability. Probability less than 5%, t value 2 or greater than 2 determines the significance or the importance of that particular individual variable. ये मैंने बताया. अब इसकी वैल्यू पे हम जाएंगे, उसके बाद फिर मैं आपको बताऊंगा कि जेंडर, पहले ये समझ लें कि क्या जेंडर का कोई इंपॉर्टेंट सिग्निफिकेंट रोल है इन अचीविंग हायर स्कोर. पॉजिटिव है, बट इट इज नॉट सिग्निफिकेंट. It means whether it is male student or female student, the achievement score may be higher in case of male, it can be higher in case of female. इसमें कोई ऐसी बात हमें नज़र नहीं आती. लेकिन ये बाद में मैं इसकी तरफ, इसकी डिटेल की तरफ, डेप्थ की तरफ आएंगे. लेकिन अगर आप अभी इसको देखें कि अब एक्चुअल इसकी इंटरप्रिटेशन होती क्या है, पहले तो सिग्निफिकेंस, उसके बाद आप वैल्यू को अगर आप देखें, इंटरेस्ट का जो स्कोर है 0.314 है. इसको हम कैसे पढ़ेंगे? इसको हम कहेंगे कि अचीवमेंट स्कोर इन ASMB इंक्रीजेस बाय 0.314 यूनिट्स, whatever is the unit, परसेंट है जो भी. अचीवमेंट स्कोर of the student improves by 0.314 units by increasing their interest by 1 unit. So if student increase their interest by 1 unit, now the interest can be measured in terms of, for example, if they are spend more time, they study it, wholeheartedly, they are taking interest, they are spending more time, they are keeping aside the other courses because they love this subject. So if they are loving this subject by 1 unit, if there is any measurement of unit, for example, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, it may be the hour in terms of hours. So by increasing interest by 1 unit, on the average, the achievement score improves by 0.318 units. On the average जो है वो उसका वर्ड लाना जरूरी है. आगे जाएं, इसी तरह एंजाइटी में अगर कहें तो नेगेटिव स्कोर है. तो एंजाइटी के स्कोर को हम कैसे इंटरप्रेट करेंगे कि अचीवमेंट स्कोर इज लाइकली टू फॉल और डिक्रीज by 0.165 units for every 1 unit increase in anxiety level. For every 1 unit increase in anxiety level, the students are likely to lose their score, achievement score by 0.165. एक सिंपल सा रूल है कि जो बीटा की जो वैल्यू है, it is ये जो बीटा की वैल्यू फॉर एग्जांपल 0.314, though it is in front of interest. Similarly, 0.164, though it is in front of anxiety, but in fact it shows the average score of the dependent variable. Remember, this is the average score of the dependent variable due to this particular independent variable. Due to this particular independent variable जिसके जो सामने है. ठीक है, इससे मिसअंडरस्टैंडिंग नहीं होनी चाहिए. मसलन एंजाइटी जिसका मैंने पहले बताया. अब आप आ जाएं जेंडर, इसको कैसे इंटरप्रेट करते हैं? Because gender was coded at 0 and 1. 0 is for male and 1 is for female. ऐसे मेरा ख्याल हमने किया था.
Yes, sir.
तो इसको कैसे पढ़ेंगे? If it is positive, तो ये बात याद रखें, जिस जेंडर को आपने 1 कोड किया है उसकी परफॉर्मेंस बेहतर होगी. जिसको भी आपने 1 कोड किया है उसकी परफॉर्मेंस बेहतर होगी, बेटर देन द अदर जेंडर. कितने यूनिट्स बेहतर होगी? बाय दिस नंबर 0.47. यानी ये बता रहा है कि फीमेल के लिए हमने मेरा ख्याल 1 रखा है. तो ए फीमेल इज कोडेड 1, तो इसका मतलब ये है कि फीमेल ऑन द एवरेज स्कोर 0.47 मोर देन मेल देन देयर काउंटर जेंडर. तो ये बात याद रखिए, एक सिंपल प्रिंसिपल है कि जिसको आपने कोड 1 किया है ये उसका स्कोर होगा इतना बेहतर. ये दिस इज नॉट द एक्चुअल स्कोर, दिस इज दिस मच बेटर देन द अदर, दिस मच बेटर देन द अदर जिसको कोड 0 आपने किया. तो हमने 0 किया मेल को, तो इसका मतलब ये है कि फीमेल जनरली इन द ASMB परफॉर्म दिस मच बेटर देन मेल. कितने यूनिट्स बेटर? 0.47 यूनिट्स बेटर देन मेल. So this is how to interpret. तो मेरा ख्याल है कि हमने बेसिक जो इंटरप्रिटेशन है वो कर ली है, तो हम यहाँ पे ब्रेक करेंगे।
Recording stopped.
अच्छा, अभी तक कोई क्वेश्चन हैं तो पहले बता रहे।
सर अभी आपने इसको फर्दर एक्सप्लेन करना है या ये
कैलकुलेशन करनी है अभी?
नहीं सर, मैं इस तरह कह रही हूँ, देखिए आपने स्टैंडर्ड पिछली दफ़ा जब हमने बताया था आपने कि एक तो जब ये अनस्टैंडर्ड जो है और वहाँ लोअर अपर बाउंड अगर एक ही नेगेटिव और पॉजिटिव है तो भी ये इनसिग्निफिकेंट रिलेशन। अच्छा अभी है। अच्छा सर, मेरा क्वेश्चन ये था कि बीटा जो है इधर और बीटा और द स्टैंडर्डाइज्ड कोएफिशिएंट में डिफरेंट है।
बिल्कुल डिफरेंट होगा,
यानी मतलब कुछ
स्टैंडर्ड आपको बताना है, अभी बताएंगे।
ठीक है ठीक।
अभी मैंने वो बताया जो आप रिसर्च पेपर में पढ़ते हैं, जो जिसकी इंटरप्रिटेशन की हुई होती है, जो आपने एमफिल में किया है, जो आपने रिसर्च पेपर्स में पढ़े हैं, जो भी पढ़ रहे होंगे आप, रीडिंग्स के जो कोर्सेज हैं उनमें आता होगा, तो उसमें स्टैंडर्डाइज्ड बीटा कोड नहीं होता, उसमें ये अनस्टैंडर्डाइज्ड बीटा होता है।
सर ये भी होता है, यानी जब हम डाटा एंटर कर देते हैं तो हमने जो डिफरेंट यानी वेरिएबल्स का वही कैलकुलेट किया कि उनके कोफिशिएंट्स बीटा वैल्यू यानी कि वो इम्पैक्ट कर रहे हैं या कितना कर रहे हैं, जस्ट ये चीज़ें इसमें भी सिर्फ वो डाटा की वैल्यूज से ना, भी इसमें कोई रिग्रेशन वगैरह तो इन्वॉल्व नहीं था।
नहीं, ये रिग्रेशन ही है
उसमें डाल अच्छा
डाटा जो हम डालते हैं ना, जो डाटा तो वेरिएबल्स पे होता है,
ठीक है,
कोफिशिएंट्स पे नहीं होता। रिग्रेशन का पर्पस ये है कि कोफिशिएंट्स निकल आए ताकि पता चले कि ये टू व्हाट एक्सटेंट दे आर रिलेटेड, क्योंकि अदरवाइज नंबर से आप नहीं कर सकते।
सर इसमें हम कांस्टेंट कैसे इंटरप्रेट करेंगे? आपने कहा था इससे अनबायस्ड हो जाता है,
वो तो हो गया ना, यहाँ पे कांस्टेंट डज नॉट हैव एनी मीनिंग, बट इफ यू वांट टू इंटरप्रेट, मैं रिकॉर्डिंग में ये एक दफ़ा फिर रिकॉर्डिंग रिजल्ट से रिलेटेड सिर्फ इंटरप्रिटेशन करके पहले मैं ये सारा समझा दूँ, क्योंकि वहाँ क्योंकि हमने तेज़ी से रिकॉर्ड करना हो, मैं ज़रा पहले आपको समझा दूँ। इसको फिलहाल यहाँ देखें, कांस्टेंट का मतलब क्या है कि ऑल दीज थिंग्स आर ज़ीरो, अगर आप इनको ज़ीरो कर दें तो व्हाट इज़ द वैल्यू ऑफ द अचीवमेंट स्कोर, तो आपका अचीवमेंट स्कोर 19.83। तो ये कैसे हो गया? अगर if we are after interpretation, if we have to have some meanings, तो इसके meanings ये होंगे if all these variables which you have considered for your model they are ignored, but still there is some source of variation in achievement score, and what is that achievement score? It is on the average 19.83 due to different factors, due to different reasons. They can be random in nature. achievement score के लिए कि इंटरेस्ट लेना एक माइंड पे तो हो सकता है, मेंटल फैकल्टी।
ये आप म्यू की बात कर रहे हैं फिर, जो अनएक्सप्लेन यही बात कर रहे हैं ना? हाँ
सर आईक्यू लेवल
और बहुत सारी चीज़ें हो सकती हैं। तो इसका मतलब ये है कि इसको आप मिला के पढ़ेंगे आर स्क्वायर के साथ, कि आर स्क्वायर इज एक्सप्लेनिंग 40% ऑफ variation in the achievement score due to 1, 2, 3, 4
not constant, not constant
40%, वो सिर्फ इंडिपेंडेंट वेरिएबल्स का होता है, उसमें कांस्टेंट तो कोई नहीं। तो 40% of the variation is due to this, it means 60% of the variation is due to some other factors। तो आप और आमतौर पे क्रॉस सेक्शन डाटा जैसे सर्वे डाटा आप HRM में मार्केटिंग में अभी करते हैं, तो इसका मतलब है कि you need to rethink over it. You need to study more articles. Try to find out more variables relevant to this model, which may or may not affect the achievement score. उनको आप find out करने की कोशिश करें। आपका जो just 40% variation in the dependent variable is explained by your selected 4 variable। कोई variable ऐसे हैं जिनको आप मिस कर दें, उनको देख लें एक दफ़ा, एक तो ये गाइडलाइन होती है। तो फिर ये भी आप देखें, ये 19.83 जब इसको आप देखें, इंटरसेप्ट के कोई मीनिंग्स नहीं है। अगर आपने जस्ट फॉर द सेक ऑफ इंटरप्रिटेशन करना है तो फिर इसका मीनिंग ये है कि जस्ट कीप असाइड ऑल दीज थिंग्स, स्टिल देयर इज सम अचीवमेंट स्कोर ऑन द एवरेज, एंड दैट मे बी ड्यू
and it is in percentage, sir।
19.8
19.8 परसेंटेज है ना?
वो-
नहीं, यूनिट्स है।
वो नहीं, ये यूनिट
ये कंफ्यूज ये
नहीं, कंफ्यूज क्यों? आप मुझे बताएं, मैं ये कंफ्यूजन खत्म कर दें।
सर 19.83 जो परसेंटेज है ना?
नहीं,
नहीं
आप कैसे अपनी तरफ से कहेंगे?
सर,
वही मैं आपको बता रहा हूँ, ये देखिए, ये आपको पता चलेगा डाटा से कि इसको आपने कैसे मेजर किया
यूनिट क्या है?
कि ये परसेंट में है तो ये परसेंट में है,
ठीक ठीक,
ये केजी में है तो ये केजी
केजी
में है,
में ये ठीक है सर।
वो डॉलर में है तो ये डॉलर में है। तो यूनिट ऑफ आपने जो डाटा गैदर किया है वो